Hey, how's it going? So before I get started, I just want to thank my Patreon subscribers, who a few of whom rather joined up in yesterday's roundtable. Because now what I'm doing is that on the Patreon, if you're a member, you can hop onto the roundtables and ask questions directly to my guests. Yesterday was like sort of like a trial balloon of this idea, and it worked out great. The people who came on were just really smart, and they had really good questions and comments to the guests. So it was a pleasure. And yeah, so I just want to mention that I'm going to continue with that. And okay, no more about that. What I wanted to talk about today is something that I've been noticing, and you probably noticed it too if you're in the West. The masks are coming off. You know, like, a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, Kanye said a few things that got everybody incredibly pissed off, and got him across the board canceled. He lost like 80% of his net worth in one go because of a few things that he said that, he said a few things, but it wasn't directed at anybody specifically. He was just saying things that I guess offended a lot of people, or maybe they struck a nerve. See, because you never get upset over something that's obviously a lie or just nonsense. You get upset over things that are true. And so Kanye got canceled, like galactically canceled, right? And there's some basketball player who's also been like under a lot of pressure. I don't know the ins and outs of this because I don't follow basketball. It was just something I heard in my periphery, right? And also what's happening too, if you've noticed, and you probably have, is that, the blatant, how can I put this very, just carefully, because you have to be careful nowadays. The blatant disregard for the people's will in the so-called Western democracies is just becoming too much to ignore. Before, the leadership class, that cosmopolitan leadership class in the West, they sort of like paid lip service to the people, right? And some of these people in the leadership class would sort of like ally themselves to a particularly vociferous group of the people, of the regular people, the everyday people who were pissed off about something or other. But now, increasingly, the cosmopolitan leadership class that dominates the Western democracies, they are more and more disregarding the people, and more importantly, more and more repressing the people. More and more making the people pay for their mistakes. Take Europe, for instance. Like, the European people are going to suffer an absolutely dreadful winter. I just saw some statistic that 1 in 4 Europeans, basically doesn't have the money anymore. That's not quite accurate. What they said was that 1 in 4 Europeans was extremely nervous, extremely anxious, I think was the term, about their financial prospects. 25% of the population is just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, man. And Europe, they're already starting with the rolling blackouts. They're already setting up these like hotspots, literal hotspots, not like Wi-Fi hotspots, but rather hotspots where you can go and get warm because you're not going to have the gas or electricity to get warm. If that's not a complete disregard for the people's well-being, I don't know what is. See? Or maybe we should be thankful that they're setting up these hotspots. Mighty generous of them to make sure that, Uma and Upa in Germany don't freeze to death this winter. Because that's what's going to happen. It's estimated that 1 in 7 elderly people in the UK is going to go cold this winter. Cold in the sense of like not having heat. 1 in 7. And that was like a statistic from a couple of months ago. And all the leadership class of the West has to do is make nice with the Russians, because the Russians have the energy, resources that the Europeans need. But no. And so this leadership class in the West, they're making the people suffer. And it's going to get a lot worse. And people are sort of like realizing this. Realizing that the cosmopolitan leadership class of the West does not care about their best interests. And the mask has just completely come off. And you can't say a word about it. Or if you do say a word, like I'm trying to do now, you have to be very careful about what you say. And as this mask has just slips and slides right off their ugly ogre faces, the repression is starting in a very bad way. I mean, before it was simply like ignoring the protests that were going on in Europe. All across Europe, there have been huge protests in the Czech Republic, in Germany, in Italy, everywhere, France, all kinds of protests. And what are they doing? This leadership class, which controls the media, after all, they subsidize the media, and so the media, the mainstream media, does exactly what they tell them to do. Yeah, the mainstream media just ignored it like it never happened. Just absolutely did not happen. And you've seen in Canada how Justin Trudeau, with a smile, like a smirk on his face, announced how he was sequestering the bank accounts of protesters. Remember the truckers' protest? All those people, they got it bad, where the sun don't shine, real bad, by the Trudeau government. And he was smiling about it. I mean, he was happy. There was like a sadistic streak to him. Huh? And did they listen to what the people were protesting about? Of course not. Oh, if it's BLM, Black Lives Matter, oh, sure, then it's great, no problem. We'll listen to you all you want. We'll put you all over TV and say that it's mostly peaceful protests, right? But if it's legitimate grievances of middle class and working class people, fuck you. So, the masks are coming off. And this winter, because of the complete incompetence and stupidity of this cosmopolitan leadership class, because that's what it is. You can say that it's greed or whatever. Whatever you might think it is, it doesn't really matter. The results are all the same. People are going to go cold and dark and hungry. And what, you think those people are going to take it, with arms crossed? No. They're going to go and protest. And so there's going to be even more repression, more vicious repression. And I haven't even started on the big thing, as far as I'm concerned, which is those excess deaths. Those excess deaths and those babies that are not being born or born stillborn. That's a big wave that's coming. And people are noticing. Little by little, people are realizing that acquaintances that they have, friends of friends, or people that they've heard of, perhaps met over drinks once or twice, they're dropping dead. Suddenly, for no reason, of like a heart problem at 39, or younger at 22. 22-year-olds don't drop dead of a heart attack. That's exceptionally rare, okay? It's not something that should be happening every day, but now it is happening every day. And we all know why. Of course, if I were to mention even the word, I'd get canceled, so I'm not going to. But you guys, you've got eyes, you've got ears, you know what I'm talking about. And so they've made a complete hash of the Western economies. They've made a complete hash insofar as getting the energy resources that they need. And they probably forced people to give something that they never should have, that had never been given before to people because the test animals all died. And this is a fact, look it up. The masks are coming off, and as more and more people realize the ugly brutality behind the mask, this wanton greed and frankly evil behind the mask, people are realizing it. People are noticing. People are saying to themselves, hey, do we really have to take this shit? as people start to ask themselves whether they can take this shit or not, you see these little critters like running away like little insects, even as they use the last levers of their power to shut people down, to repress them, to persecute them. I'm just saying here, okay? I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that anybody should do anything. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not advocating for anything. I'm just, like I always say, I'm the little kid in the Emperor's New Clothes story, the little kid, who pointed and say, why is that man walking naked? That's me. Understand what's going on.